Chapter 738. Sima Xianxia was shocked, but he was extremely shrewd and maintained a fake smile on his face. Could it be that Scorpio King has some news? Tang Tian was not immersed in the joy of victory. He had too many realizations that needed to be sorted out. At the last moment he had gained enlightenment on the sacrificial execution, and the demonic figure appeared in his body, causing the might of his fist to increase. With regards to things related to battles, Tang Tian had always had an extremely sharp intuition. He had a faint feeling that the demonic figure that was born from the heavy demonic execution was much more valuable than the heavy demonic execution. Save ourselves. Sima Xianxia waved his hands at Sima Xiao and said sinisterly, "We are all boorish people and are not proficient in such things. We never expected to meet you. You are an expert. Help us plan something." The more Sima Xianxia heard, the more shocked he became. He is truly sinister. He had to admit that it was a brilliant plan. The entire plan was flawless. Sima Xiao had borrowed the power of others to sow dissension and used it to the extreme. Sima Xianxia believed that as long as the plan was carried out, Bright Light City would descend into chaos. No one would have thought that the ones plotting in the dark would actually be the two of them. They were a group of fanatical fighters. The pitiful Ping Xiaoshan had started a large-scale special training. It was a true large-scale special training. Other than Tang Tian, all the Null Division members were crying piteously for food. The two of them had the difference between heaven and earth. If not for Sima Xianxia having the same surname as him, he would not even pay attention to such a small figure. This unique law did not require him to use the power of the physique, but it was unable to materialize and was unable to project power to him. Upon enlightenment, it became a law surface, and was like a formless net that floated around Niechio's body. Bright Light City. Qin Zhen sent the guests off with a smile. He had a tall stature with a skinny face and a stern gaze, but when he smiled, it made people feel as though they were bathing in the spring wind. Everyone knew that time was precious and no one wasted it. Battles were the same as life. They had to fight against time, fight against life and death, fight against the enemy, fight against yourself. Maybe you will never truly win, but if you do not fight, you will not even have the qualifications to call yourself a loser. Because only those who lose in battle are losers. What was even more surprising was that his mental state had a breakthrough. His aura had become even more stable, and his originally wild temperament had actually become restrained and steady. Because of the breakthrough in his mental state, the third move of the heavy demonic execution, Devil Eye Slash, was surprisingly easy for him to learn. Thinking of this, a cold smile appeared on Qin Zhen's face. The Null Division prisoners were famous for being arrogant and untamed, and up till now, other than a few who voluntarily surrendered to them, no one else had been tamed. Since we want to play, then let's play bigger. Sima Xiao laughed. His smile was as harmless as ever and spoke of his plan. Qin Zizhen was dead, the archer unit was destroyed, Wei Han and Mu Zhe were dead. The Shui family had sided with Ghost Face Mask and escaped to Echo Hill Castle. All of these news caused his face to become extremely gloomy. Ghost Face Mask's strength far exceeded his expectations. Sima Xiao chuckled. You think that Tang Tian will die? Your danger has never been your martial strength. Sima Xianxia laughed sinisterly. Sima Xiao had borrowed the power of the clan union to ascend to the Scorpio King's position. And with his schemes, Sima Xianxia knew the disparity between him and the other party. He knew that it was time for him to perform. If he was not of any use and had no value, he even suspected that Sima Xianxia would kill him. Sima Xiao laughed. You don't have to test me. I have your information. You, Amauri, Han Bingning and Liang Qiu, all of you came out from Star Wind City with Tang Tian. Other people might betray Tang Tian, but the few of you will never do so. He licked his lips. This period of time was extremely important to them. As long as they could digest it, their overall strength would have a qualitative leap. But he was a realistic person and knew that if he were to fuss about such small details and act pretentious, it would be seeking his own death. As an ambitious and ruthless person, his ability to judge the situation was always more outstanding than ordinary people. Sima Xiao laughed. He knew that his words had an effect. Just at that moment there was a commotion outside. How can the Scorpio King who can reach such a stage be an ordinary person? He quickly found the relevant information on Sima Xianxia. Since Lu Tianwen had made a move, he could relax and focus on communicating with the other families. The Lu family did not mind him buying the Null Division prisoners from the other families in Galloping Horse City, If not, he would not have the chance. He also knew that the Lu family's focus was on the Shui residence, and he knew what the Lu family saw in the Shui residence. But after so many years he had never found out the secret from the Shui residence, so he might as well sell it to the Lu family. Who won't die? Sima Xianxia declined to comment. Sima Xianxia scoffed. That's right, seems like having the same surname has some advantages. To be able to let Scorpio King remember me, it is truly an honor. The Qin family had suffered heavy losses, and if not for the Lu family sending out Lu Tianwen, Qinzhen would have long returned to Purple Cuckoo City. Crazy Tang is not dead. Sima Xianxia suddenly said. I never thought that we would meet in such a manner. Sima Xiao was filled with emotions. He revealed a look of contemplation. I remember you are called Sima Xianxia? At that time, that price is not bad and can even attract the Lu family's attention. Sima Xianxia squinted his eyes. Bright Light City had 700 Null Division members. Sima Xiao knew that he was ultimately not a person of the Ursa Major constellation, and it would be extremely difficult to gain their trust, and the more he beat around the bush, the harder it would be for them to trust him. He directly revealed his cards. I am the Scorpio King and do not wish to stay in this godforsaken place to be a servant. On this point we both agree. I never thought that I would be able to break out of Sin Domain by myself without Tang Tian. None of us will be able to leave this place. And I have lost all of my strength. What threat do I pose to you all? And the other person who had gained the most was Niechio. His senses far surpassed ordinary people, and even under Lu Tianwen's astonishing pressure, he was still able to observe the entire place like a spiderweb. His final roar caused him to suffer internal injuries, but it also caused his mental state to undergo a qualitative change. What no one expected was that he had gained enlightenment on a law, an extremely unique law, yin-yang formation. Han Bingning needed time to restrain the sword concept that she had released, and although she had revealed her abilities, she was still far from being able to control it. But the other families were not fools. Everyone knew the value of the Null Division prisoners, and without paying the price, it was impossible to buy them. Every negotiation was extremely difficult, but Qinzhen still had a huge harvest. Clang clang, Qinzhen's face turned pale white. The teacup in his hand fell to the ground. He had successfully negotiated with the three families, although he had to pay a price and almost emptied out the Qin family's wealth, but to Qinzhen it was worth it. Sima Xiao did not know whether to laugh or cry. It had been a long time since someone dared to speak to him in such a frivolous tone. The blood in Amaury's body had even seeped out from his skin, showing how much burden he was enduring. His body was extremely tyrannical, and the burden was like the fiercest furnace fire, fiercely tempering his body. His tiny null flames had also completely transformed into null flames, igniting his primordial fire origin. Sima Xiao could not help but size up the gloomy man in front of him. To be able to speak so confidently in front of him without revealing anything, he was not famous, but he was not to be underestimated. I never thought that any one of Tang Tian's subordinates would be so powerful. Sima Xianxia glanced at him. I can't tell you that. Before he could finish, he fell to the ground. His face was as white as paper and he was no longer breathing. Sima Xiao was not angry but continued to pursue. What plans do you guys have? Nothing much. Sima Xianxia said sinisterly. A wise man submits to circumstances. He had to seize the time. If the Lu family went back on their words, he would not be able to buy the Null Division prisoners from the other families, and that was the reason why he had not returned yet. Everyone thought that the Qin family did not have the ability to digest the Null Division prisoners, and would only make them explode. When he returned, the smile on his face disappeared, and all the servants and maids around him did not dare to breathe. More importantly, Niechio saw hope in the formation, and to a military general, there was nothing that could make him more ecstatic. Zhongjing Yanmei with his tattered clothes and body full of injuries stumbled in. Master, the four families have joined hands to attack. There was an absolute difference between a veteran and a new recruit. Furthermore, after going through such a terrifying and difficult life and death battle, everyone's mental state had undergone an earth-shattering change. Sima Xiao was surprised. How can there be a Scorpio King now? We are just lowly prisoners. I am very curious, how did you gain the trust of the Mo family? And all of this required him to calm down and comprehend. So the first thing Tang Tian did when he woke up was to give the order to close down Echo Hill Castle. In this period of time he had gained the trust of the Li family, and was extremely familiar with the situation in Bright Light City. He was extremely familiar with how to fish in troubled waters, and was extremely proficient in it. If he was alone it would be difficult for him, but with Sima Xianxian's cooperation, the situation would be completely different. The Li family behind him and the Mo family behind Sima Xianxian were the top families in Bright Light City. Sima Xiao was roused. Of course, I never thought that he would die so easily. Where is he now? Niechio's senses were originally extremely sharp, and had become even more terrifying. Many people were secretly laughing at him, thinking that he would not be able to digest the Null Division prisoners even though he was frantically buying them. It was not only him, everyone in the Null Division had benefited greatly from the battle. Sima Xianxian squinted his eyes, his heart trembled. He never thought that a small figure like him would actually be so well understood by Sima Xiao, but his expression did not change. This is not a betrayal. Who knows if he is already dead? I can't possibly be buried with him. Without knowing if he is alive or dead, you are already relying on him. Aren't you being too anxious? Sima Xiao spoke with a trace of ridicule and suddenly asked, "What rumors did you hear?" The other members of the Null Division had also received different degrees of tempering. None of them retreated and faced the light aura to fight to the death, allowing them to improve greatly. In the past, the Null Division was just an experimental unit and had never experienced a true battle. No one knew that he had special methods to make the prisoners obedient, and he was not worried about taming them. He did not even touch any of the prisoners. He wanted to give everyone a false impression that he was gambling, a gamble that did not care about the consequences. Only by doing that would others think that he was a fool and sell the prisoners to him. Chapter 739. A look of ridicule surfaced on Lu Xingxiang's face. He had seen Qinzhen jumping up and down for the past few days. He could tell with one look that Qinzhen was ambitious. Although he did not stop Qinzhen, but he looked down on him. The Qin family's foundation was too lacking compared to the Lu family, and the Lu family would not be so flamboyant, but Qinzhen was overestimating himself. Pieces of transparent sword aura exuded a piercingly cold chill, and the chill continued to surge in the room. Gradually, the sword auras started to crumble. The large sword auras turned into small sword auras, which then became the size of a fingernail and continued to crumble until they became as fine as sand. Tang Tian once again congealed the demon figure, but this time he placed all of his attention on the dark blue mark on his heart. The dark blue mark flashed with a bewitching blue light and the demon figure shattered. The Qin family was ambushed? That dark blue nomological brand was actually able to burrow into his body when he punched. Because it had been fine previously, other than the dark blue imprint on Tang Tian's heart, there were no other effects, so Tang Tian did not mind it. Although Lu Tianwen's killing intent was too heavy, but with his strength the number of people who could kill him could be counted with one's fingers. Furthermore, he had the Lu family as his backing. The families of the Purple Cuckoo City dared to ambush the Qin family, but would they dare to make a move on the Lu family? It was not only a Maori who wanted to learn, all of the Null Division members wanted to learn. He then thought about Qin Zizhen's arrow when they were rushing out of the city gates. Tang Tian, who did not believe it, tried again and again, but the demon figure would shatter every time. Lu Xingxiang shook his head and threw the matter to the back of his mind. If not for his enlightenment on the demon figure, Tang Tian's fist would not have been able to continue. Different from the others who were advancing smoothly, Tang Tian met with trouble. The closer it was to him, the more stable the light spot became and the more congealed the gray lines. The ice became thicker and the pain increased as though it was being tortured. He adjusted the origin force in his body and struck the dark blue imprint. At the start, the imprint did not have any changes and was as harmless as usual. But when Tang Tian continued to increase his origin force, the imprint started to change. This was the foundation. This was also the reason why Lu Xingxiang did not think much of Qinzhen. He felt that Qinzhen's ambition surpassed his own strength. Han Bingning did not make a sound. Her whole body was trembling. She kept her lips tightly shut and did not make a sound. During the battle with Lu Tianwen, she was recuperating and in closed-door training, and was unable to make it in time, causing her to be extremely vexed. Tang Tian's invention, the air shield, did not require the use of any laws or energy, but only required sufficient physical strength. Learning the air shield meant that they would be able to fly in the sky. This was very important to them, and it could also make them more agile. Just a moment ago, Tang Tian felt a wisp of extreme yin energy enter Tang Tian's heart from the patch. Tang Tian felt as if he had been struck by a heavy blow, and the source energy in his body became chaotic. After adjusting his breathing for more than 10 minutes, Tang Tian finally recovered. He began to grope. Yes. The butler smiled. As a military general from Heaven's Road, Niachio's control aura was extremely outstanding. Although he could not see, but he was extremely sensitive to the undulations of energy, and that allowed him to be extremely meticulous in his control aura. Humph, who knows where he ran off to? Lu Xingxiang said unhappily. He's not even working properly. Just that, why didn't the demon figure that I condensed last time shatter? Lu Xingxiang had doted on his younger brother since young. He was different from Lu Xingxiang, who was mature. Lu Tianwen had always been arrogant and untamed since young. His actions were preposterous, and if he did not agree with him he would start a fight and had stirred up a lot of trouble. Although Lu Tianwen was not very obedient, but his talent was extremely high. Lu Xingxiang had said more than once that if not for Heaven's Inquisition being too late, he would definitely not be ranked 39th on the list of powerhouses. The powerful demon figure was actually affected, causing Tang Tian to pay attention to the inky blue law imprint. It lit up with a faint blue light, and on its heart was a glowing blue patch, which made it look extremely strange. There was no need to doubt the power of the demon figure, and Tang Tian guessed that the final slash of the heavy demonic execution, demonic phaseless execution, should be related to the demon figure. With the previous experience, Tang Tian quickly congealed the demon figure, but the demon figure that was just formed was actually like a fragile ceramic statue and shattered. On the nearest light spot, there was a null division member who was carefully sensing the undulations coming from the yin threads. It was the undulations of laws, and Niachio realized that the yin threads were extremely sensitive to the undulations of laws. Because of the null division member's tiny null flames, they were able to grasp the law threads very quickly. Han Bingning sat cross-legged in the quiet room. The air in the room was extremely cold. The ground and all four walls were covered in frost. Around Han Bingning, there were many sword concepts that formed a vortex that revolved around her. In truth, killing Lu Tianwen was a fluke that could not be replicated. If they were to do it again, the probability of them failing far exceeded the probability of them winning. The butler did not reply as he was not in a position to do so. A look of ruthlessness flashed past Tang Tian's eyes. Even if he had to carve out a piece of flesh from his heart, he wanted to remove the plaque. As for the null division members, they were currently using their laws to temper their bodies. As long as they had enough power of the physique, they could learn the second technique of the heavy demonic execution. After trying out the power of the first technique, everyone was filled with anticipation for the second technique. The fine ice grains wrapped around Han Bingning's body, slowly squirming. Her sword was released unexpectedly and was difficult to control, so she decided to use the sword concept to temper her body. Everyone could clearly feel the improvement in their strength, and that made them even more excited. Cooperating with Niachio and not affecting their training, they naturally let him do as he pleased. In the field, the null division members were all seated cross-legged, all of their bodies releasing tiny null flames. Han Bingning endured the pain without making a sound. The process of tempering her body was always accompanied by pain. Not only did she not stop, she continued to release her sword concepts. The shattered sword concepts were added into the ice grains. Lu Xingxiang had an ordinary appearance like an old farmer, and the clothes he wore were extremely simple. Ever since he ascended to the position of patriarch, the Lu family's frugality immediately flourished, and in the entire family only Lu Tianwen continued to be extravagant, causing Lu Xingxiang to be helpless. The demonic figure appeared once again, but very quickly it shattered. Whirlpool sword storm. The ice-cold and dense sword concepts slowly but firmly tempered her flesh and her willpower, but she was fearless. The blue light became brighter and brighter, and just as the blue light was about to waver, Tang Tian suddenly groaned, his face pale white. Furthermore, he needed to absorb a certain amount of life origin essence every day. Absorbing life origin essence was easy, but digesting it was not so easy. As long as he continued to brandish his broad guillotine blade, he would continue to train in the heavy demonic execution. The battle had allowed them to feel the cruelty of battles, but it also gave them hope. Even if they were not as strong as Lu Tianwen, but their attacks were still effective, they were not ants. Inside the Echo Hill Castle, There was no longer any joy of victory. Everyone was extremely nervous and busy. Even after killing Lu Tianwen, they were still far from victory. Qin Zhen and Lu Xiang, the two martial artists on the list of powerhouses, caused everyone to feel a heavy pressure. She wanted to ignite her primordial fire origin. Tang Tian thought that he had done something wrong, and after adjusting his breathing he once again did the same thing. Bang! The dazzling blue light almost shot out of his body, causing Tang Tian's mind to tremble. Compared to Tang Tian, the demonic execution was extremely important, and Tang Tian was unable to tolerate the existence of such a terrifying hidden danger in his body. Tang Tian no longer had any thoughts of luck. The demonic execution was extremely sinister, and if he did not get rid of it, there would be endless troubles in the future. He took a deep breath and started to adjust the origin force in his body, and unceasingly struck the patch. A Maori who had ignited his primordial fire origin meant that he had entered a higher realm, but it also brought with it problems. He needed to adapt to a brand new body, and the usage of origin force and the power of the physique were vastly different. Not yet. The butler laughed. Heavy demonic execution and air shield, that was the basic configuration. In the center, Nyachio sat cross-legged in his empty vision. There were many gray lines and many bright spots. The gray lines represented yin, while the bright spots represented yang. Till now. Even so, the two list of powerhouses martial artists of the Lu family were enough to look down on everyone. Other than that, he still needed to train in the air shield. Is there any news from Heaven's Inquisition? Lu Xiang asked casually. She also knew that if she was not strong enough, even if she could participate in the battle, she would only be a burden. Thinking about how the one to end Lu Tianwen was actually a Maori, the barbaric bull, she became even more unresigned. Now, what exactly is the ink blue law imprint? Tang Tian was extremely curious. To be able to interfere with the demonic figure's laws, its grade was definitely not low. Tang Tian thought about it, but there was no result, so Tang Tian decided to use the simplest method to test it out. The surging origin force in his body was like a torrent, crashing into the patch. Yes, it is said that the other four families of the Purple Cuckoo City joined hands and suddenly launched an attack on the Qin family, and the Qin family was completely destroyed. The butler reported respectfully, Zhou Xian may manage to escape, but was heavily injured. When he saw Qin Zhen, he only said one sentence before dying. He started to adjust his breathing, allowing himself to enter his optimal state. In this battle he had also reaped huge rewards. Although the God Fist was not completed, but it was not far from completion. The most important thing was that he had gained enlightenment on the demonic figure from the sacrificial execution. The undulations of the yin lines immediately made him think about the control aura. Qin Zhen is now alone. Lu Xiang's words carried a trace of schadenfreude. Only by becoming stronger can I fight alongside Tang Tian. The bone-piercing cold intent and the biting cold sword concept were like countless of small knives slicing across. Lu Xiang was not worried about Lu Tianwen's safety, nor was he worried about whether the Shui family would succeed. After an hour he opened his eyes and took a deep breath. The origin force in his entire body started to revolve. He did not immediately attack the patch, but allowed the origin force to accumulate in his body. The origin force surged more and more, and close to 80% of the origin force in Tang Tian's body was all gathered by him. At that moment, everyone was extremely excited and started to train frantically. Tang Tian felt that he was not in the wrong. He calmed himself down and tried a few more times and finally found the reason. The thing that destroyed the demonic figure was actually the ink blue patch at his heart. Chapter 740. The blue light shot out from Tang Tian's body. His blood vessels, muscles, bones, all of them were translucent and could be seen clearly. More importantly, the Demon Six Seals was practically made for Tang Tian, who was proficient in close combat. Tang Tian suddenly thought about the fists that he used to fight against Lu Tianwen, but the demon figure did not shatter. Tang Tian heaved a sigh of relief. As long as it was a law, it would be easy. Releasing the light aura from his hands, Tang Tian carefully maintained the demon figure, and what made him heave a sigh of relief was that the demon figure did not shatter. The blue flames and the sound mist, in an environment with origin force, was actually able to shatter the demon figure, showing that its grade was definitely not low. Laws. His current life was filled with danger and he could die anytime, but it was still intense and fulfilling. And Tang Tian did not have any suspicions towards him because he was from the Leo constellation, but instead he trusted him, which was the respect and trust that a military general yearned for the most. Niechio raised his head. He was extremely shocked. What made Tang Tian puzzled was that the blue flames that contained the mist gave him a strange feeling. Tang Tian could sense an aura similar to the demon figure from them. Suddenly he sensed something and turned to look at the place where Han Bingning was in closed-door training. He rejoiced in his heart, rejoicing at his choice. The whispering song was faintly discernible, causing the world around Tang Tian to sway along with the song. The light aura converging on Tang Tian's right fist became even more intense. It was extremely dazzling. The surging origin force continued to be consumed. Until the origin force was completely exhausted, Tang Tian continued to use his fist. Every time he fought, his strength would become stronger. A gentle whispering song quietly came out from the dazzling blue light, causing Tang Tian's expression to become absent-minded. After experiencing the initial difficulty, Tang Tian finally sensed a trace of law aura. The trace of law aura was extremely concealed, hidden within the blue light and the song. If not for Tang Tian being on high alert and being extremely focused, he would not have sensed it. Tang Tian's heart sank. His god fist was able to attract the law threads in the surrounding space, but was actually unable to attract the strand of law. A wisp of demonic blue flame quietly burned within Tang Tian's body. Inside the transparent blue flame, there was a wisp of mist that gathered and scattered. The song came from that wisp of mist. But at that moment, it was abnormally quiet, trembling in front of the heavenly demon form. But once he entered the state of battle, the simple and unadorned Tang Tian seemed to have become a different person. He had an extraordinarily sharp intuition towards battle, an almost obsessive pursuit of victory, and a will that was stronger than steel. No matter how strong his opponent was, he was filled with fearlessness and would never retreat. Gaining enlightenment in battle was as common as eating a meal. The heavenly demon avatar returned to its calm state. His potential seemed to be endless. No matter how much danger he faced, no matter how powerful his enemies were, it was only to let the potential buried deep within his body see the light of day again. Almost as soon as Tang Tian willed it, the sky demon form's arms suddenly reached out to the blue flames, as if it was picking up a flower. Tang Tian's mind shook. The gigantic heavenly demon form surfaced behind him. Compared to the previous time, the heavenly demon form was even more congealed. It had 3 heads and 6 arms. Other than the face being blurry, the 6 arms were extremely clear. Tang Tian's mind shook. Could it be that the red-eyed golem has some sort of relationship with the heavenly demon form? He was extremely sensitive to auras. The master's training room released an astonishing aura, which was exactly the same as the battle with Lu Tianwen. He initially thought that the master was practicing his fist again, but he never expected that after a few breaths of time, the vast aura would suddenly change, as though a sea of mist was churning, changing unpredictably. Tang Tian forced himself to calm down. The dazzling blue light in his body caused him to be unable to see anything. He closed his eyes and calmed down. The song would disappear and reappear, and in the next moment, Tang Tian's nose was dripping with perspiration. The song was extremely weird, as though it could enter one's heart, and no matter how careful Tang Tian was, there was no effect. The golem's 5 gestures, no, more accurately, it should be called the heavenly demon 6 seals. Tang Tian's attention landed on the heavenly demon form's palms. The 6 palms all formed different hand seals. It was not that he had become Tang Tian's subordinate, but he had a high opinion of his superior. If one looked at him normally, Tang Tian would not be able to see anything special about him. He would be ordinary and not outstanding at all. Other than being diligent and able to make people sigh in admiration, but that was all. Niechio could not help but laugh bitterly. In the past, when he was in Leo constellation, his group of colleagues loved to research on the general situation of Heaven's Road, and Ursa Major constellation's Tang Tian naturally became everyone's research target. The godlike young lad was a miracle. He was like an undying cockroach. Every time he met danger, not only would he be able to turn danger into safety, he would often borrow the momentum to improve. The blue flames entered the heavenly demon form's fingers and disappeared. In the blink of the eye, the heavenly demon form's hands had 2 objects. One was a blue flame that slowly floated, the other was a strand of mist like a swordfish. It danced along the hand seals. Niechio's own talent was outstanding. Although he was born blind, but he was still able to distinguish himself from the other Leo constellation. His talent was unquestionable. Since young he had been in the circle of geniuses, and the outstanding geniuses around him would sometimes cause people to feel a sense of defeat. What laws are these? Tang Tian was enlightened. Such strange laws required the help of origin force. Without origin force it was like a rootless duckweed and was completely useless. In the end, everyone came up with two conclusions. One was that he was extremely scheming and was proficient in borrowing power to fight, and the other was that Tang Tian had outstanding talent. The heavenly demon 6 seals. It was extremely profound and profound. It was extremely profound. His state of mind was completely attracted by it and he was immersed in it. Niechio slowly understood that Tang Tian was completely immersed in battle. It was something he had never seen before. Tang Tian shook his head. He did not want to think about it. The world was huge, there were all sorts of strange things, and it was normal for there to be techniques that he did not know. Although the heavenly demon 6 seals and the heavy demonic execution had the same origin, but they were completely different. The heavy demonic execution's power was extremely ferocious, but its variations were concise, and the most important thing was its imposing manner. The heavenly demon 6 seals had endless variations, and was able to make up for the weakness of the heavy demonic execution. Although the zero energy body allowed him to be extremely close to laws, but in terms of enlightenment on laws, it was difficult for him. Other than his comprehension on spatial law threads, he did not have any clue on law surfaces. The heavenly demon form was comprehended by Tang Tian from the heavy demonic execution, and if one were to say that the incomplete God Fist was the highest grade martial technique that Tang Tian had comprehended, then the heavenly demon form would definitely be ranked second. Furthermore, it had immense potential, and Tang Tian suspected that after gaining enlightenment on the demonic formless, its might would definitely not be weaker than the God Fist. But Niechio felt that none of them could compare to Tang Tian. Niechio laughed bitterly once again. Following beside Tang Tian, the pressure was everywhere. Tang Tian would never rush anyone, but no one was willing to see the distance between themselves and others grow, even if the person was their superior. Tang Tian hardened his heart and ignored the singing. The singing gradually started from a whisper to a clear and resonant voice, causing Tang Tian's world to spin and distort. Tang Tian was like a calm and experienced hunter, unmoved. Niechio's heart was filled with emotions. Only when he got closer did he realize that Tang Tian was very different from what the rumors said. And for such a simple and honest person to be able to obtain the hearts of so many people, it made him even more precious. Suddenly he thought about it. Golem 5 techniques. Bang! Tang Tian finally saw the strand of law clearly. Did Master gain new enlightenment? Could it be? Tang Tian was startled. An indescribable enlightenment flowed through his heart. The blue flames were actually two things, the blue flames that were separated from the mist. The aura made Tang Tian think of the blue sea. Could it be something born from the blue sea? And the spirited sound mist was even more complicated, and was able to confuse people's minds. This is... But he quickly reacted and was shocked to realize that the blood and flesh in his body were actually out of control. They were abnormally lively, the temperature of his blood was rapidly rising, and was throbbing with a strange rhythm. Following such a superior is not easy for me. This thing was most proficient in confusing people's minds. With Qin Zizhen's strength upon contact he would definitely lose himself in the sound mist and blue flames. Tang Tian's heart was moved. Not only did he not retract his fist, he instead activated the origin force in his body even more frantically. This should be the reason why such an outstanding person is willing to work for me. He matched the hand seals one by one and realized that 5 of the hand seals were extremely similar to the Golem 5 styles, but there were some differences. After comparing them, Tang Tian understood that the Golem 5 styles were most likely derived from the heavenly demon figure. It was highly possible that one of the forms had been lost in the inheritance process, and although the other 5 forms were passed down, there were some deviations, and were not as perfect as the true heavenly demon figure. In the future his enemies would only become stronger and stronger, and relying on law threads to fight would only be a joke. Other than the God Fist, Tang Tian's only other attack method was the heavy demonic execution. But it is a pity that I do not know what it can use. If not, I will definitely help it obtain it. Could it be that Qin Zizhen has some special technique? Tang Tian immediately stood up and unleashed his fist stance, his face gloomy. He slowly unleashed his fist stance and countless of law threads converged on his fist. But what he did not expect was that the strange law hidden in the blue light was actually not affected at all. Tang Tian felt that the hand seals were somewhat familiar. He frowned and thought hard, where have I seen them before? He once again placed his attention back on the heavenly demon figure. The heavenly demon figure had blue flames on one hand and sound mist on the other, but the other 4 arms were empty, which was an eyesore. Tang Tian thought, could it be that the 4 arms can absorb laws and use them? The sound mist and blue flames were actually able to prevent the heavenly demon figure from forming, and its grade was definitely not much lower than the heavenly demon figure. When he was on Phylan's star, Tang Tian had obtained a red-eyed golem, and from it he had gained enlightenment on 5 mystical hand forms: the grasping flower form, weeping sword form, angry fist form, ethereal form and imposing form. The golem 5-form hand seals were extremely similar to the heavenly demon figure's hand seals. After following Tang Tian for a period of time, Niechio slowly understood him. He knew that the first point was completely ridiculous. Tang Tian's subordinates did not lack people with outstanding intelligence, but he himself would definitely be a burden to everyone. But towards the second point, Niechio felt that they had underestimated the master. Outstanding talent? A godlike young lad with a godlike talent. To chase after that figure you have to continue to work hard and continue to push yourself. Thinking back to the time when he was in Leo constellation, Niechio then realized how lazy he had been. Chapter 741. This swift and decisive action and spontaneous silence itself contained a powerful and solemn power, causing Su Yi and the rest to feel suffocated. They did not understand what an army was, but the quiet and well-trained scene in front of them gave them a huge shock. Tang Tian, who had just come out of closed-door training upon hearing Mingzhu's report, he was dumbstruck and immediately became excited. He was just thinking about how to save the Null division from the Qin family, but never thought that Su Yi and the rest would actually succeed. Mingzhu could not help but turn to look at Ghost Face Mask. Su Yi and the rest who were welcoming Tang Tian at the door were all extremely shocked. Han Bingning and Amauri brought the rest and left. They had to seize the time. Seeing the 2 groups of people leaving in an orderly manner, everyone became quiet. It was this man who changed everything. The art of armies had long been lost in the Sin domain. The current Sin domain was extremely unfamiliar with what an army was. But Su Yi and Victor were from families that had existed for a long time, although they were unfamiliar with armies, but they knew what was good for them. They were unable to measure Ghost Face Mask's depth, but they could sense the changes in the others. When Su and Zhong saw Han Bingning, he could not believe his own eyes. When did a swordsman ignite his primordial fire origin? A swordsman that ignited his primordial fire origin. This. 10 minutes later, 2 neat square formations appeared in front of everyone. Immediately, Amauri and Han Bingning walked into the field, and split everyone into 2 groups, each leading 1 group. The 2 of them were not embarrassed at all and did not pass on the responsibility. The 2 of them immediately ordered their members to do a self-examination, and then formed the groups. But the group in front of them did not even question them. They were quiet and their movements were clean and efficient. Maybe this group of people can truly change the Sin domain. The current Null division's strength had increased by leaps and bounds. Amauri rushed in excitedly, patting everyone. Han Bingning, who was as cold as an ice mountain, was also extremely excited at the moment. The rest also rushed in and helped their comrades remove the light needles from their bodies. No one would have thought that Ghost Face Mask would actually go into closed-door training at such a crucial moment. Victor waved his hands with an innocent look. Although I was the one who came up with the idea, but everyone agreed. Besides, if we fail, will my family be spared? You won't be able to escape Qinzhen's evil hands either. Another 2 minutes later, the 2 of them led their subordinates to choose their encampments. Everyone's spirits were lifted and the boulder on their chests was completely lifted. For a moment, everyone felt a little exhausted. The feeling of a powerhouse on the list of combat power coming back at any time was like a blade on their backs. That kind of invisible pressure made it hard for them to breathe. These days they couldn't eat or sleep in peace. If Qinzhen came back, the 4 clans would not be able to resist, and the fate of the 4 clans would be the same as the Qin clan. They would be uprooted and their entire clans would be annihilated. Without any hesitation he requested for group training. Seeing the respectful smiles on Su Yi and the rest, Mingzhu felt even more complicated. She had never thought that such a day would come, and she believed that they had never thought that such a day would come. When Benson fought with Ghost Face Mask for the first time, he never thought that there would be a day where I would welcome him outside the city. At that time, when Su Yi and the rest were talking about Ghost Face Mask, they had never thought that there would be a day where they would become his subordinates. The Qin family was completely destroyed by them, and the Null Division prisoners were obtained, so they immediately sent people to the Echo Hill Castle, and requested for Ghost Face Mask to enter Purple Cuckoo City. The Qin family had already been uprooted, the four families had sided with Ghost Face Mask, and the Purple Cuckoo City had truly changed masters. "Where is he?" Tang Tian asked without hesitation. Although he was a bit rash, Su rather liked people with such a genuine temperament. Niechio's yin-yang formation was already at the initial stage, and his formation was already in its embryonic form. As for the Null Division members, all of them were brimming with energy and were extremely ferocious. Amauri's transformation similarly left Su shocked. She had a deep impression of this big guy among the prisoners. On one hand, it was because Amauri seemed to be the leader of this group of people. On the other hand, it was also because of his straightforward personality. Once his companions were bullied, he would be the first to rush up. Compared to the elites they had seen before, although in terms of individual strength, they were much stronger than this group of people. But they were too familiar with the scene of people huddling together, fighting and arguing with each other were extremely normal, and it was good enough that they did not open their mouths to find fault with them. If they wanted to move them, they had to give them a reason and they had to give them money. The Su family had 92 people, adding the 65 people under Tang Tian, they had a total of 626 people. The huge change in Purple Cuckoo City also shocked everyone. The first to react was naturally Niechio. He immediately understood that something had happened, and had a rough estimation of the situation. But what they did not expect was that the Echo Hill Castle's doors were tightly shut, and even after their men shouted for half a day, no one opened the door for them. Just that Xue Mingzhu shouted once on the stone wall, saying that Master Ghost Face Mask was in closed-door training, and before he comes out he will not open the castle. Everyone became quiet. They knew what Benson meant when he said to be prepared. He did not care about the thoughts of the families as long as he could save his brothers, even if they wanted to use him he did not care. Without Ghost Face Mask's protection, the four of them did not have any confidence in fighting against Xianxia. In the past they had never seen any experts on the list of powerhouses, although they felt that Xianxia was stronger than them, but they did not have any idea. The 60-odd people all had their auras linked together as though they were one. The situation immediately became strange. Xianxia was definitely on his way to Purple Cuckoo City, and if Ghost Face Mask entered Purple Cuckoo City, they did not need to worry about their safety. If Ghost Face Mask could kill Lu Tianwen, then Xianxia would naturally not be a problem. Even the rhythm of their breathing was completely synchronized. If they closed their eyes, they would mistakenly think that there was an ancient desolate beast breathing beside them. This man is truly powerful. The entire process was swift and decisive. No one made any noise, no one whispered to each other, and no one dragged their feet. Other than Han Bingning and Amauri's voices, no one else in the camp spoke. They lowered their heads to check on their bodies, and occasionally someone would raise their hand to report their injuries. Su Yi and Victor looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Other than that, there were no other noises. If they did not personally witness it, no one would have thought that there would actually be 600 people in the small camp. Without saying a word, Tang Tian immediately decided to return to Purple Cuckoo City. Su Yi and the rest awoke from their stupor. Su Yi immediately said, "Master, please follow me." When their subordinates ran back, everyone looked at each other in dismay. They were caught unprepared by the result. Tang Tian's subordinate strength had suddenly swelled, and their numbers had increased by 10 times. Niechio's confidence also swelled to a military general. 60 men and 600 men were two completely different concepts. But after not seeing Amauri for a few days, it was as though he had changed into a different person. His temperament was steady, his imposing aura was not revealed. It was obvious that his strength had undergone a huge transformation. It was not because of his strength but because of his improvement. In the blink of the eye, they would be left behind. Only after witnessing the battle between Lu Tianwen and Ghost Face Mask did they understand how strong experts on the list of powerhouses were. Lu Tianwen was ranked 39 on the list of powerhouses, while Xianxia was ranked 43. The two of them had a difference of 4 ranks, and their standards were definitely not far apart. In Heaven's Road, an ordinary standard army had roughly 2,000 men, and 600 men was a third of a complete army. Of course, the Leo constellation was an ecliptic palace constellation, so the number of people in their armies would be much larger, but it was still maintained at the order of 1,000. If this fierce beast were to suddenly attack, who would be able to stop it? The Qin family had many prisoners. Other than their original 227, the Teopiot family had 42, the Lu family had 200 for a total of 469. Niechio finally had a feeling that he could put his skills to use. With a scale of 600 men he could devise tactics, and the power that he could mobilize had increased greatly. Echo Hill Castle is still in closed-door training? When Tang Tian appeared in the prisoners' barracks, the dense mass of prisoners had a momentary silence, followed by a heaven-shaking cheer that resonated throughout the entire city. Everyone couldn't help but look at Victor. Tang Tian's fist had destroyed the city gates. The scene of her bringing the entire Shui family out of the city was still fresh in their minds. At that time, their hearts were filled with fear and bewilderment. It was a patch of darkness. At that time they were like stray dogs living in fear. Roland Su was the first to stand up for Victor. That's right. Now is not the time to look into who is responsible. This is everyone's choice at this time. We need to be united to be able to overcome this crisis. Ambushing the Qin family did not take much effort. Qin Zhen was not around, and only 2 of the 4 great generals were left. Qin Zizhen's archer unit was destroyed, and the Qin family was at their weakest. How could they defend against the alliance of the 4 families? Similarly, there were no problems and his suggestion was approved. But out of consideration for safety, all of the Null Division were mobilized. Just at that moment, a scout suddenly reported with an excited expression, "There are people coming from the direction of Echo Hill Castle." In the past few days he had a new breakthrough in his exploration of the Yin-Yang formation. But in just a few days he had actually returned, and with the attitude of a victor he was welcomed back into the Shui residence. Such an imposing manner, when had the Sin domain ever seen it before? Amauri's strength had increased by another level. The null flames that were released from his body had gradually been retracted. Even his temperament had undergone a complete change. The initial rush and stupidity had disappeared. He had become even more steady, and the air of a great general had appeared. Han Bingning had ignited her primordial fire origin, and became the only member of the Null Division to ignite her primordial fire origin and gain enlightenment on her law surface. Even in the Sin domain it was extremely rare for people to achieve both. Mingzhu looked at the newly repaired city gates and the welcoming crowd outside, and in that moment he was actually moved. Su Ye's tone revealed a trace of anxiousness. It was not only him, the other people also revealed a trace of worry. The result in front of them was something that they had never expected. All of the tactics and principles were the same. It was to make the use of strength more efficient. Niechio was an outstanding military general and had a deep understanding of this point, although the form of strength had changed, but the principles of the tactics had not. Benson nodded his head and said, "We better prepare early." Chapter 742. The Monarch Yearning Strike was an extremely unique martial technique, containing too many dreams, emotions, beliefs, hopes, and the tempering of her mental state allowed her to have a deeper understanding and comprehension of the Monarch Yearning Strike. She had encouraged herself countless of times. Yearning is a rainbow. Su Yi remained silent. Su Yi subconsciously wiped his forehead and unknowingly, a layer of perspiration had appeared on his forehead. He had a lingering fear. Luckily I did not stop her. If I had killed her. Everyone were experts and immediately sensed the change in Tang Tian's aura. With the formation of a hand seal, a warm and tranquil aura dispersed out from Tang Tian's body. The current Tang Tian looked like a completely different person without any killing intent. She knew the disparity between her and Tang Tian, and knew how little help she could give him. He had conquered Heaven's Road like a hero, while she was managing a small family in an unknown planet. Monarch Yearning Strike, Monarch Yearning Strike. Upon entering the room Tang Tian frowned. The air was filled with a unique aura. Tang Tian kept his smile and said softly, his tone was filled with joy. He never thought that he would actually meet Gu Shui, and was even able to save Gu Shui, and never thought that Gu Shui would actually break through at such a time. Roland Rose shook her head. No, it's Qin Zhen's second family general. When we attacked the Qin family she was in a coma the entire time. Furthermore, she seems to be in a weird situation, Master. Do you want to take a look? How can a young lady like a rainbow surrender? Why would she give up? Roland Rowe heaved a sigh of relief. She was afraid that Ghost Face Mask would have killing intent, or become impatient. But Master Ghost Face Mask was much more amicable than the rumors said. She immediately replied, yes, this subordinate feels that this lady has been bewitched by someone, and killing her would be a pity. Upon thinking about that scene, she could not help but shiver. Then she felt her body being pulled up and swayed with all her might. Leaving the room, Tang Tian saw a gigantic rainbow appearing in the sky above Purple Cuckoo City, causing countless people to exclaim. The Sin domain did not have any sunlight and naturally did not have any rainbows. All of the Sin domain people had only heard of the beautiful rainbows from their ancestors. Su Yi and the rest were dumbstruck, but in the next moment, everyone could not help but look at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. His lordship knows. His lordship actually knows this girl. Su Yi was helpless against Roland Su's insistence. To him, he should just kill him. Since he was Qin Jin's right-hand man, there was no point in recruiting him, so he might as well just kill him. However, Su was kind-hearted. Seeing that she was also a woman, she tried her best to protect her. Unknowingly, she had already surpassed the realm of the sword-slaying demon Wang Yong. Tang Tian was overjoyed and laughed. "Ha, Gu Shui, it's me. You finally recognized me. That's great." There wasn't the slightest bit of cold aura, only dreamy and warm. What kind of sword intent was this? The struggle of the mind was extremely difficult. In the world of the mind there was nothing to hide, nothing to cover up, nothing to avoid. Like a bayonet that saw blood, he was covered in cuts and bruises, but he never gave up, never surrendered. The citizens of Purple Cuckoo City all walked onto the streets, raising their heads to look at the unprecedentedly beautiful rainbow. Although the woman was unconscious, Su did not act carelessly and sent many people to watch over her. Su led the way and Tang Tian followed the group into the depths of the city lord's mansion. At that time, only Zhou Xian and Yan Mei were left in the Qin clan. The scale of their resistance was very small, so the city lord's mansion did not suffer too much damage and was well preserved. The woman on the bed heard someone calling her name in a daze. She slowly opened her eyes, and the first thing that entered her field of vision was the face that she had been thinking about day and night. Sure enough, as soon as Tang Tian entered the room, he sensed the aura of the blue flame. Compared to the wisp of law mark in his body, this woman's mist was much thicker, and her entire body was wrapped in a lingering blue mist. The illusion of the blue mist and the bewitching sound made Gu Shui suffer a lot, but at the same time she benefited a lot. Acacia is a rainbow. What move was this? Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. They did not sense any fluctuations of laws. Without the fluctuation of the laws, how could the aura change? Furthermore, they had never seen such a tranquil and gentle aura before. In that moment, they felt as though they were standing in a gentle breeze. They were all people with strong willpower and regained their senses after being in a daze, but their hearts were filled with shock, and felt that the master was even more unfathomable. Until today, when she opened her eyes and saw Tang Tian, all of the accumulations of training, the scars from the mental clash, and the rainbow that had never disappeared in her heart had found the most suitable connection point and fused together, allowing her to step into a new realm. The lingering blue mist became lesser and lesser, and the woman on the bed appeared. Her silver mask was extremely eye-catching. Tang Tian looked at the rainbow above his head. The warm and dreamy sword concept reminded him of the past. Su and Zhong's face revealed a look of shock. Sword concept. The strange blue mist seeped out from the woman's body, curling and moving as though it was alive, and after a moment, it once again entered her body. He walked to the bed, the demon figure congealing in his mind, and at the same time he formed the grasping flower seal. Gu Shui was completely awoken by the roar. She opened her eyes in a daze, but the face in her eyes did not disappear, but looked at her anxiously. She was stunned, and after a moment she muttered with uncertainty, "Tang Tian?" Tang Tian was immersed in the grasping flower seal. His expression was calm and he had a smile on his face. "I'm dreaming again." Roland Su walked forward and spoke respectfully, "Master, we still have a captive. How can I not recognize you? Even if you turn into ashes, I can recognize you." In his mind, the gigantic demon figure appeared behind him, and his fingers were like the grasping flower seal. The blue mist entered his body, and flew into the demon figure's grasping flower seal. The blue flame became even more intense at a speed visible to the naked eye. The blue flame that was originally the size of a soybean gradually became the size of a candle, quietly floating between his fingers. The sound mist on his other hand was also expanding rapidly, its size increasing by a few times, and the thin sound became much thicker. Inside the captivating blue mist, she would wake up and sleep as though she was in a dream. But she had never given up. She had personally experienced the destruction of her family, and had personally built her family from the ruins, and her personality was never weak. Tang Tian's subordinates formed their own system, and he did not need to worry about the null division. As for the matters of Purple Cuckoo City, Tang Tian left it to the four families. To him, Purple Cuckoo City was just a temporary residence and he would not stay for long. The four families were the local tyrants and had more experience than him in handling matters. Tang Tian was startled. Captive? Is he one of us? Monarch yearning strike. Tang Tian was startled, and in the next second he blurted out, Gu Shui. Tang Tian looked at the smile on Gu Shui's face, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. Could it be that Gu Shui is injured somewhere? Or is there an imprint that has not been removed? In a moment of anxiousness, Tang Tian's eyes widened in anger and he roared, Gu Shui. For an entire hour Tang Tian did not move, as though he was a statue. She chuckled and closed her eyes. But just like what Tang Tian had said, so what? Gu Shui looked as though she was bathing in the sunlight. The blue sky was clear and rainbows floated in the sky, her face revealing a satisfied smile. Since she was a captive, Tang Tian did not have any intentions of being polite. Without saying a word, he took off her mask, revealing a beautiful face. Let's retreat. Gu Shui's face suddenly blossomed with an enchanting smile. Her eyes had transformed into two beautiful whirlpools, suddenly like countless of rainbows spinning. The entire room was filled with rainbows, and Gu Shui, who was on the bed, slowly floated in the air. Victor spoke up from the side. This lady's background is mysterious. She is not from the Purple Cuckoo City, master. Why not take a look? On the bed laid a lady with a silver mask on her face, her entire body shrouded in blue mist. Gu Shui maintained her smile. She continued to feel sleepy. She wanted to continue sleeping. A light sound came out, as though the blue mist was being attracted. It transformed into a thin smoke arrow and entered Tang Tian's fingertip. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. Roland Su subconsciously touched the rainbow in front of her, but grabbed onto nothing. In the blink of an eye, Tang Tian realized that he had free time again and could train again. Su Yi heaved a sigh of relief, although he did not know what inheritance the master had, but to be able to break it, that was great. When the last strand of blue mist entered Tang Tian's fingertip, Tang Tian opened his eyes, revealing a faint look of joy. The blue flames in the demonic figure's palm was already the size of a fist, and the sound mist on the other hand was as thick as a finger. Tang Tian nodded his head without hesitation. Let's go take a look. Since I am weak, then I will become strong enough to help him, just like how he helped me in the past. She arranged everything in the family properly, settled everything down, and then walked out resolutely. A loud sound suddenly exploded out, causing the air in the entire room to be stirred, surging unceasingly. Tang Tian's eyes lit up. To others the blue mist was poison, but to him, it was a great nourishment. The blue flames and sound mist in the demonic figure's hands were pitifully little. Su Yi and the rest were shaken to the point that their eardrums were buzzing, their minds were in a daze. After dispersing the grasping flower seal, he left the ethereal state, and Tang Tian's gaze landed on the lady on the bed. Mask? Thinking about his own ghost face mask, Tang Tian was pleased. Seems like everyone likes masks. She unintentionally ended up in this place and was controlled by Qin Zhen's blue mist, but her mind that was imprisoned never gave up. Because of himself, because of the figure, because of the rainbow, because of many other reasons. Hey, Gu Shui, quickly wake up. Everyone's faces became gloomy. Su Yi glanced at Roland Su. He trained in the life and death laws and was extremely sensitive to the aura of death, but he had never seen the blue mist before and had difficulty determining what it was. This dream is a little intense. Inside the rainbow there are actually sword concepts. That was also why he wanted to kill her. The blue mist was strange, and if he was not careful he might be implicated, and it was not worth it to sacrifice himself for a captive. He was worried and also dissatisfied with Roland Su and Victor. If something were to happen to the master, who would be able to bear the responsibility? It's weird. Tang Tian was interested. It was a pity that no matter what Roland Su did, he was unable to wake her up. If it was him, he would definitely not give up. No matter how stupid Tang Tian was, he knew that the item was extremely beneficial to the demonic figure. Chapter 743. He had just snuck out of the tavern when a figure appeared in front of him. The more Qingjin thought about it, the more afraid he became. Lu Tianwen had made his move, and the Lu family had no path of retreat. They would think of ways to get rid of him. Thinking about the terrifying Lu Xingxiang, Qingjin trembled. A sinister look flashed past Qingjin's eyes. He suddenly thought about Lu Tianwen, and felt that it was strange. There was such a huge movement in Purple Cuckoo City. Why did Lu Tianwen not have any reaction? Ghost Face Mask was still far from the list of powerhouses. He could not wait any longer. He decided to go back and report it was a false alarm, but for such a huge matter, it would be a huge loss if he delayed it by a day. What we need now is time. Tang Tian thought for a moment, then asked Niechio, if we have a month, how strong can we be? Everyone kept quiet, but the disbelief on their faces did not fade. But seeing that Tang Tian did not refute him, everyone became suspicious. Are all of their talents that strong? Niechio's 1 month was definitely not without reason, and most likely he already has a plan. If Lu Tianwen were to take action, what would the Lu family do? Qingjin's first thought was of Ghost Face Mask, but he quickly denied it. Ghost Face Mask's strength was not weak, but that was all. Killing Wei Han Muze and the archer unit was shocking, but compared to him there was still a huge gap. Impossible. The broken mountain peaks, the collapsed rocks, the large craters, everything showed that there had been a huge battle. Learning the air shield is easy, but considering that we might be fighting in the air, the difficulty of forming formations in the air will be higher, so the training time will be extended. Niechio's tone did not have any emotions. The first slash of the heavy demonic execution is easier to handle. Although the training of formations is new, but we have been training in formations for a long time, and will be able to adapt very quickly. But adding everything together, the time will not be short. That was what Qingjin did not understand, unless they were not afraid of his revenge. Or if they had someone backing them up, or if they knew that their situation was not good. Qingjin had been thinking about this problem for the past few days, and it was the biggest doubt in his heart. The undulations of laws lingered in the air. Seeing the undamaged Echo Hill Castle, Qingjin guessed that Lu Tianwen had already brought the Shui family away. I think that Ghost Face Mask has been killed, although I did not see his corpse, but it is the most logical result. Qingjin, who was suspicious by nature, disappeared into the night like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bough. This seemingly absurd conjecture continuously devoured Lu Lingnan's heart. The more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. Who could it be? The others were in complete disbelief. There was so much content, and even they felt that it was difficult to achieve. Learning everything in a month? What a joke. In front of Su Yi and the rest, Niechio said honestly. Would the Lu family not be jealous of the Qin family's Null Division prisoners? Lu Xingxiang might not be jealous, but who could guarantee that Lu Tianwen would not be jealous? Can Ghost Face Mask fight against Qingjin? In his eyes, the Purple Cuckoo City in the distance was like a monster that could devour anyone at any time, with danger lurking everywhere. Now that he was the only one left in the Qin family, he absolutely could not act so rashly. However, as the 4 races changed sides, Lu Lingnan sensed a trace of unease. It doesn't make sense. This is definitely not a good time to rely on Ghost Face Mask. At this moment he suddenly remembered that the 4 great clans had destroyed the Qin clan. He had been wondering who the 4 great clans' backer was. Now that I understand, it is even more strange. Why do the 4 families think that Ghost Face Mask can be their backer? Lu Tianwen took action. Niechio spoke frankly with assurance. With a thought, he quietly flew towards the Echo Hill Castle. A martial artist on the list of powerhouses, the strongest martial artists in the Xin domain. He can fight against Lu Tianwen. Niechio's tone remained calm, as though he was speaking of an extremely ordinary matter. Just like how he understood them, they also understood the Qin family, and they knew that the Qin family was supported by Qingjin. As long as Qingjin was not dead, they would definitely not dare to take action against the Qin family. A conservative estimate, 1 month. Niechio said. His own situation did not change. He knew where the Lu family's bottom line was and never challenged it. Qin Zhen's thoughts had always been on the Qin family and he did not have any enemies. To be able to give Su Yi and the rest such confidence, they definitely had to be a martial artist on the list of powerhouses, and he had to be ranked higher than him, only then would the cowards dare to make such a move. Along the way I did not see Lu Tian when escorting the Shui family. Qin Zhen suddenly thought of a possibility: the Lu family might not be his opponent, but Lu Tianwen might not. Lu Tianwen's temperament was eccentric, ruthless and extreme and could do anything. If Lu Tianwen had a sinister person like Su Yi by his side, it would be hard to say. Who could it be? They dare. If that's the case, then everything can be explained. Qin Zhen's face congealed. Could they be colluding with the Lu family? Qin Zhen shook his head again. The Purple Cuckoo City did not have any meaning to the Lu family. The two cities were not adjacent to each other, and between them was Sharp Wind City. Furthermore, if the Lu family truly has enmity with the Qin family, they will not let me return. They are definitely waiting for me. Maybe they have already set up an ambush and are waiting for me to bump into them. He could only vaguely remember the rough location of the Echo Hill Castle, and following the directions when he flew to the Echo Hill Castle it was empty. But Qin Zhen's gaze did not land on the Echo Hill Castle, but swept across its surroundings. Tang Tian asked directly, "What ideas do you have?" There were high and low talents in humans, and to randomly pick a group of people and ask them to comprehend law threads in such a short period of time. And when he knew that the four families were actually welcoming Ghost Face Mask and the Shui family into Purple Cuckoo City, Lu Lingnan felt that something was amiss. But he did not think too much about it. How could Ghost Face Mask kill Lu Tianwen? What a joke. He just thought that maybe Lu Tianwen was just playing around. There wasn't a single person in the clan who didn't have a headache when it came to this uncle of theirs. However, his strength was extraordinarily high, so everyone could only pinch their noses and accept it. There was only one possibility left. They had someone backing them up. Ghost Face Mask is definitely not Lu Tianwen's opponent. He must have been killed. Qin Zhen understood his city rivals very well. Ben Sin was rough on the outside but meticulous on the inside. Victor was quick-witted and ever-changing. Roland Su was the most decisive. Su Yi was talented, but at the same time he understood their weaknesses. Even if Wei Han, Mu Zhe and Qin Zizhen's archer unit were completely destroyed, they would not dare to touch the Qin family. That old man Lu Xingxiang's strength was even more terrifying. When the four clans destroyed the Qin clan, he was just watching the show and gloating. No matter what happened to Purple Cuckoo City, the Lu family had nothing to do with it, and Lu Lingnan was eager to see them fight to the death. But he was only surprised by the four clans' confidence and boldness. Qin Zhen was a martial artist on the list of powerhouses, and his strength seemed to have a breakthrough. Qin Zhen looked at the rainbow in the sky above Purple Cuckoo City, his face becoming even colder. He never thought that she would actually break free from the bewitching jade illusion. Lu Tianwen? Taking the initiative to attack to mess up the situation, and increase the time for the Lu family to react. Qin Zhen racked his brains, but could not think of anything that Su Yi and the rest could rely on. But at the same time he knew that the four clans did not come to the Qin family impulsively. If it was one person, it might be impulsive, but for the four of them to do it together, he did not believe it. Lu Lingnan quietly snuck out of the inn. He planned to leave under the cover of the night. That is the easiest thing to do. Niechio's tone remained calm without the slightest bit of anger from being doubted. Under everyone's doubtful gazes, he gave a strong proof. The 65 soldiers from before, all of them gained enlightenment on law threads, and all of them did not take more than 2 days. I am the most important existence in the Qin family. As long as I am here, the Qin family will continue to exist. How long do we need? Tang Tian asked. Now that Master Gu Shui has broken through, adding Han Bingning, a Maori, the formation, and the elites of the four families, as long as we defend, even if Lu Tianwen attacks, we will not be at a disadvantage. Although I do not know if Qin Zhen is stronger or weaker than Lu Tianwen, but if they are on the same level it should not be a problem. Gain enlightenment on law? Everyone, that's not realistic. Yi could not resist but cut in. The rest were also puzzled. Niechio said calmly. The sudden guess caused him to tremble. The rainbow above Purple Cuckoo City caused Qin Zhen to lose his confidence. After experiencing the initial rage, Qin Zhen, who had calmed down, was filled with suspicions, and the mastermind behind the scenes made him feel a chill down his spine. What a joke! Although it is not difficult to gain enlightenment on law threads, but in such a short period of time, to let everyone gain enlightenment on law threads. If not for Master Ghostface Mask's trust in Xianxia, they would have suspected that he was an amateur. If that's the case, then Uncle Tianwen. Could it be that Lu Tianwen is truly in Purple Cuckoo City? The four families had been unhappy with the Qin family for a long time, but Qin Zhen had never cared about them, so what would they dare? But he quickly reacted, why is it impossible? What if Ghostface Mask is truly stronger than Qin Zhen? If Ghostface Mask is truly stronger than Qin Zhen, then Uncle Tianwen. The newly freed soldiers need to learn the heavy demonic execution and the air shield, to gain enlightenment on laws and train in formations. All of these require time. If we are able to complete all of these, we will become extremely strong. The Lu family will definitely not blame Lu Tianwen, they will only take the chance to swallow me up. The more Qin Zhen thought about it, the more afraid he became. That's right, Lu Tianwen is definitely waiting for me to walk into their trap. Su Yi and the rest did not believe it. Tang Tian seemed to understand. Then how do we delay the Lu family? Lu Lingnan's face changed. Tai Xia. Qin Zhen calmed down. He suddenly realized that he actually did not know anything about what was happening in Purple Cuckoo City. What exactly happened to actually make Su Yi and the rest dare to attack the Qin family? We do not have that much time. Victor spoke out. Qin Zhen is a suspicious person. Without understanding the situation in the city, he will definitely not appear. But he will definitely hide in the shadows or have other methods. And the Lu family, Lu Tianwen's death cannot be hidden for long. If in another 10 days, the Lu family does not receive any news of Lu Tianwen, they will definitely be suspicious. Even if we include this period of time, it will definitely not exceed 20 days. Chapter 744. The Qin clan has been eyeing the Shui clan for Li Zhigong's inheritance. Li Zhigong had stayed in the Shui residence for a period of time. He did not have any children and disappeared after that. Su Yi said, but the Qin family has never found Li Zhigong's inheritance. They had already rummaged through the Shui residence's heavy demonic execution, but they still couldn't find Li Zhigong's inheritance. I suspect that the Lu family also wants to buy the Shui family because of Li Zhigong's inheritance. Hearing this, Tang Tian almost blurted out the demon's 6 seals. Build a mansion and open a city? Tang Tian was even more confused. What he didn't expect was that Tang Tian agreed without hesitation. What was even more unexpected was that he was asked to go. Of course, on the surface it looked like a suggestion, Xiao's suggestion, but it was no different from a roll call. How could he reject it? Su Yi looked at Tang Tian's strange expression and was surprised. Master, this is? My lord, you must never mention this to anyone else in the future. Absolutely not. Su Yi was surprised at Xiao's eyesight. Although the blind man could not see, but he was still powerful. Su Ye's voice was trembling. He had sunk into an indescribable excitement. Where do we start? Tang Tian asked lazily. Tang Tian rubbed his nose and said embarrassedly, my heavenly demon 6 seals was comprehended from the Shui residence's heavy demonic execution. Yes. Su Ye's face was filled with yearning and respect. Ancestrally was the first sage to gain enlightenment. When the various families first entered the Sin domain, their strengths were all crippled and they suffered heavy casualties. It was said that in the past Ancestrally witnessed the blood of the various races flowing like rivers, becoming lambs for the beasts to prey on. His heart was filled with sorrow. He walked alone to the peak of the mountain, meditated for 3 days and finally gained enlightenment on the Tao of Sin domain laws. That day he leaped down from the peak of the mountain and brought the various races to a valley. He guarded the valley entrance alone. That day the wild beasts that Ancestrally killed also flowed like rivers of blood. Then he walked around the various clans and passed down the Tao of laws. Rumor has it that Ancestrally doesn't use weapons and uses hand seals as his enemies. Sometimes he smiles and sometimes he goes crazy. How do we make the demon 6 seals reappear in Sin domain? For ordinary people, fighting was too far away from them. Life was what they had to face every day. A sensational victory was enough to bring the demon 6 seals back into everyone's sights. Su Yi was already prepared for this. The Lu family sold the Null Division prisoners to the Qin family, and when Qin Zhen was buying the Null Division prisoners in Galloping Horse City, the Lu family did not stop them, showing that they do not have any ambitions towards the Null Division prisoners. Although we don't know the reason, we can pretend to be the other party. Tang Tian was confused by what he heard. Tang Tian came to a realization and asked with a strange expression, "Wait, did you just say that Li Zhigong relied on hand seals?" "This is good." Tang Tian's eyes lit up, but he immediately had some doubts. "But I haven't seen Li Zhigong's inheritance, how can I act like it?" That's right, in Tang Tian's understanding it meant going around. With his level he could only think of running to the Lu family, setting fire to the manor, and then ambushing a few important elders. But the carriage was just a cover, the interior was luxurious, and the body of the carriage was not made of ordinary materials. It was extremely sturdy and had excellent soundproofing, so there was no need to worry about the people inside being heard by the driver outside. No wonder Master is so powerful. No wonder Master was able to kill Lu Tianwen. Su Yi felt as though someone had cast a technique on him. He was stunned, and after a few breaths of time his face flushed red as though he was drunk. To prove Master's identity, it is extremely simple, that is to let the Demon Six Seals reappear in Sin Domain. The other party? Tang Tian was puzzled. Regardless of whether Master was enlightened by himself or was taught by someone else, he had learned Ancestor Li's inheritance, so he was Ancestor Li's inheritor. What if I win a series of victories? The moment Master turned his head, he agreed without hesitation. The current Su family was already tied to the Master's war chariot, and if the war chariot were to succeed, the Su family would naturally play a part. But if the Master were to fail, then the Su family would not be able to escape the fate of being destroyed. The driver was an old driver with 20 years of experience. His talent was limited, but he was extremely meticulous with the flow of the wind. The carriage did not budge at all, and if not for the whistling sound of the wind outside, it would be difficult to sense that the carriage was flying. Could it be that the heavy demonic execution truly contains Li Zhigong's consummate technique? Why did Qin Zhen and the rest not notice anything? All of his doubts seemed to have been resolved at this moment. He did not know how powerful the Ursa Major Null Division was, but as the inheritor of Ancestor Li, it was definitely a golden and dazzling signboard. If the Lu family is truly going for Li Zhigong's inheritance, then they will definitely have a reaction. Su Yi said, compared to Master who is Li Zhigong's inheritor, the Shui family's importance will be greatly reduced. Like that we can delay Lu Tianwen's news for a period of time. And Master can use the Li family's inheritance as a condition, to let the Lu family come out and purchase the Null Division prisoners. He forced himself to calm down. He had initially prepared for the Master to disguise as Ancestor Li's inheritor, and all of his plans were for that. But now that he knew that the Master was Ancestor Li's inheritor, the situation had a qualitative change. Tang Tian curiously observed for a while, then retracted his gaze. He had some enlightenment in his mind, regardless of whether it was Heaven's Road, Sacred Saint Galaxy or Sin Domain. The martial technique system was different, but their tentacles extended into the various industries of the people. That was probably why they were able to last for so long. Sounds interesting. Tang Tian felt that it was interesting as expected. With such a smart person by his side, it would save him a lot of trouble. If it were him, he would not be able to think of such a convoluted idea. A challenge. Su Yi, who had calmed down, started to think quickly. Master's hand seals. Su Yi was slightly pleased. Master might not know, but in the past, Li Zhigong relied on 6 strange and unfathomable hand seals to become the champion. This subordinate saw the hand seals that Master used to save Master Gu Shui, and thus thought of this idea. There was a qualitative change in the situation, but the entire plan only required a small change. Previously, his plan was to make Master's identity as Ancestor Li's inheritor ambiguous, and not be exposed. But now he needed Master's identity to be recognized. Su Yi explained further. We released the signal saying that we ambushed the Qin family because of the Null Division prisoners. And now that we have become the true controllers of Purple Cuckoo City, the Galloping Horse City is most likely waiting for a good price. As for why we need so many prisoners, it is because we want to build a city. On the road, Su Yi had always been secretly observing Tang Tian. He was still unfamiliar with this Master Ghost face mask. Tang Tian listened to him excitedly as though he was listening to a story, and continued to urge. And then? Su Yi suppressed the excitement in his heart. He took a deep breath and shouted to the coachman outside, "Change of path, we are going to East Immortal City." Master can disguise as Li Zhigong's inheritor. Su Ye's eyes flickered with light. Master might not know, but in Xin domain the grade of inheritance usually signifies status and resources. Qin Zhen is already the most talented person in the history of the Qin family, but he is only ranked 42 on the list of powerhouses. Purple Cuckoo City is also at the bottom of the 17 cities in Xin domain. The reason why the Lu family is so interested in the Shui family is most likely because of Li Zhigong's inheritance. Galloping Horse City is the neighbor of the 4 main cities, but its position and reputation is far from the 4 main cities. Lu Xiang is an ordinary man, but his heart is not small, and he wants to bring the Lu family to greater heights. A carriage flew in the sky. The driver was an old hand, the carriage was extremely stable. The wind law threads produced countless of fine breezes that wrapped around the carriage as it moved forward. Wind law was the most commonly seen law, and its greatest use was to fly. Being a coachman was the most common job for martial artists who majored in wind laws, and every trading company required a large number of coachmen. Su Yi dared to confirm that as long as this identity was revealed, it would definitely cause an uproar in Xin domain, and countless people would move upon hearing it. Yes. Su Yi scoffed. When we searched through the records of the Qin family, we realized that they had always been searching for something. This matter has to start from the beginning. When the various families were exiled to Xin domain, they lived miserable lives. But the inheritances that had a long history usually had their own unique understanding of laws. The first to complete the inheritance were 5 families. These 5 families were the ones with the longest histories out of all the families that were exiled. 4 of the families had already built their own cities and occupied the richest land, which is the current 4 main cities. And the other family only had 1 person, but that person's entire family perished, so he became the target that the other families fought to rope in. His name was Li Zhigong, and not only was he the first to gain enlightenment on laws, his strength was publicly acknowledged to be the first. Before he left, he had absorbed a large amount of life origin essence. Although the life origin essence did not directly transform into origin force, but continued to strengthen his body, but the strengthened body still produced a large amount of origin force. The origin force continued to accumulate in his body, but he had nowhere to release it, and was currently surging to the point that it was about to gush out. His every movement was extremely careful, as though he was a lion that had eaten its fill and was extremely lazy. According to Xianxia, the master needed someone who was familiar with the local environment as a guide, and Victor was a good choice, but he was injured by Qin Zhen and had yet to recover, so the intelligent Su Yi became the best candidate. After breaking through, Gu Shui's strength was extremely powerful, and in the Xin domain where strength was respected, although one's family background was seen as important, but in front of strength, all of that was just fleeting clouds. Calling Gu Shui master made Su Yi completely convinced. Su Yi did not know why Tang Tian would agree to Xiaqiu's risky suggestion. He even felt that such a risky suggestion should not have come from a subordinate's mouth. Such a dangerous thing could be done by a subordinate, but not by the leader. Yes. A glint flashed past Su Ye's eyes. Now that the news of the Qin family being destroyed has spread, the Lu family will definitely know about it, but they will definitely not think that it was us who did it and will suspect a third party. We only need to disguise ourselves as this third party and run to the Galloping Horse City and wantonly purchase the Null Division prisoners. Chapter 745. Han Bingning ignored him and distributed the copy of the Blood Bear. Draw according to this. Purple Cuckoo City was at the tip of the crescent moon in the east. Not only was it close to the mountains, it was also close to the sea, and was truly a dangerous place. The Null Division had all sunk into silence. All of their faces were green and red. All of the upright lupus people had veins popping out on their necks. That's right, as Sir's subordinates, they actually needed Sir to rescue them. They actually needed Sir to take the risk to fight for training time for them. Amauri's scalp went numb. He could tell that Han Bingning was really angry. For Master to be able to be so young and have such outstanding talent, and also possess a top-grade inheritance, Lu Tianwen is definitely not Master's final destination. A powerful leader, a powerful army, an unparalleled reputation who can stop the Master. He really didn't have any opinions. He didn't care about such details at all. Furthermore, in Leo constellation, the flag personally bestowed by the Lion King was a supreme honor. Furthermore, the flag came from the Master's hands. Su Ye's pale face revealed an abnormal flush of red. His eyes were as bright as stars. Utter humiliation. It seemed to be right beside his ear. Han Bingning looked at the newly embroidered blood bear black flag, and could not help but think about the battle at the West Street, the young man with the ghost face mask who carried the flag and shouted, "Ursa Major Null Division Han Bingning return." Su Yi was extremely excited and had been racking his brains for the past 2 days, trying his best to plan for Tang Tian. From the moment he stepped into the Sin domain, Tang Tian had a stomach full of fire. His subordinates had been turned into prisoners, and all he needed to do was return them? Naive. Did everyone suffer for nothing? Tang Tian planned to settle the score with them when the time came. A sword was pressed against his neck and the cold blade made his hair stand on end. He heard Han Bingning's murderous voice. "You said it's ugly?" The Sin domain's 17 cities were distributed within. The 4 great cities were located in the center of the crescent moon, where the terrain was wide and fertile. Since this place was the first to be developed, the flat terrain left no place for wild beasts to hide, making it the safest place. Gain reputation? Tang Tian was stunned. After thinking for the past few days, he suddenly realized that the Sin domain had a new opportunity. If not for Ancestor Li's inheritor, Master and his Null division would be considered outsiders to the Sin domain, and would definitely not be able to gain the trust of the majority of the families in the Sin domain. But Master is the inheritor of Ancestor Li. The situation is completely different. Master has an extremely deep relationship with the Sin domain, and can greatly reduce the hostility of the various families. During the second battle of West Street, she had followed behind Tang Tian, followed behind the flag, and when she saw the ugly blood bear on the black flag fluttering in the wind, she had made the decision at that time to keep the flag as the Null division flag. Tang Tian snorted coldly. Attract their attention? It's okay. Even if they don't look for me, I still want to look for them. I will definitely beat them down one by one. She remembered how she felt at that time. If she didn't force herself to not let Darlene and the others see her weakness, tears would have flowed out of her eyes. Master's identity is noble, but he is willing to take the risk for his own subordinates. Such a ruler will definitely receive the support of others. But there will definitely be people who disapprove of Master at that moment. Master only needs to send out the army with the army. Those people will naturally obediently hand over Master's subordinates. If they wanted to go to Galloping Horse City, they should first pass through Sharp Wind City, and then follow the coastline to the west, and that would be Galloping Horse City. Su Yi changing to East Immortal City was his plan. We need to seize the time to become stronger. We should not let Master save us. As subordinates, as Master's direct subordinate army, this is a disgrace. Our current training time is all because Master risked his life to fight for it for us. This is a disgrace. That's right, Master said that he is the inheritor of Ancestor Li, so naturally no one will believe him. Then what should we do? We need to let everyone believe that we will continue to challenge all the famous experts, and as long as Master wins, Master's Demon 6 seals will become more and more famous, and then Master's request will change everyone's mind. Master is the inheritor of Ancestor Li and has many ferocious generals under him, and will definitely become a great ruler in the future. So many people will place their bets on Master. Even if they are not willing to rely on Master, they will not make things difficult for the prisoners, and Master can use benefits to exchange, and without moving a single soldier, you can redeem many of your subordinates. Everyone looked at each other. The closest cities to Purple Cuckoo City were East Immortal City and Sharp Wind City. East Immortal City was at the northwest of Purple Cuckoo City, while Sharp Wind City was at the southwest of Purple Cuckoo City. My drawing is not bad, right? Amauri said happily. It looks better than Crazy Tang. Ziyi even saw the hope of unifying the Sin domain. Lu Tianwen's ranking was not worthy of the title of Ancestor Li's inheritor, and would only make a fool of himself. Only with a higher ranking and even more dazzling existence could the entire Sin domain crawl under Master's feet. He suppressed the excitement in his heart and pretended to be calm. Once Master wins a few battles, no one in the Sin domain will dare to go against Master's orders. All of Master's subordinates will return to Master's side. Master will ultimately have to take a bigger risk. Su Yi explained, because once Master's identity as Ancestor Li's inheritor is exposed, it will also attract the greed of others. They will definitely think of ways to obtain Ancestor Li's inheritance from Master. Master will encounter danger at any time, and following the rise of Master's reputation, it will most likely attract the attention of the top-grade martial artists. If it is just to spread his name, he can just announce Lu Tianwen's death to the world. But with that, Lu Xingxiang will definitely disregard everything and attack. And in this period of time, Master's strength will soar by leaps and bounds. Why not leave some time as a buffer? Master can first find a few people to warm up, and have a higher chance of winning against Lu Xingxiang. The title of Ancestor Li's inheritor was definitely one of the strongest signboards in the Xin domain. More importantly, Master's null division. Su Yi saw another kind of strength in the null division, and as long as he allowed Master to gather his subordinates, no one would be stronger than him. There was no need for any other words. The null division started to train fervently, as though every single one of them were risking their lives. The Shui family's weavers were extremely skilled, and very quickly, they finished embroidering the blood bear black flag. What weakness? Tang Tian immediately asked. Until Han Bingning spoke out. Amauri could not resist and said, "Don't tell me you truly want to use such an ugly bear as our null division's flag?" This subordinate has been thinking for the past 2 days. There are many changes that need to be made to our previous plans. Since Master has inherited Ancestor Li's inheritance, Master's identity as Ghost Face Mask can be maintained. Furthermore, we can openly ask for subordinates from the various families. The Lupus men all thought that Tang Tian was willing to die for glory, and the humiliation caused all of their hearts to bleed. Niechio, who was silently sensing the changes, realized that he needed to re-evaluate the army. What's the use of that? Tang Tian did not care. The flag and mask, this subordinate specially asked them to send it over Master's trip this time. We need to be open and above board and have a good reason. Su Yi said solemnly, "Since we have decided to raise our reputation, we need to make a big commotion and do it that way." The current Xin domain that they had opened up was a long and narrow crescent-shaped region that extended from east to west. On one side of the crescent was an endless mountain range, while the other side was an endless blue sea. He did not know if it was the right thing to do, but it was the best plan he could think of. In such a difficult time, in such a dangerous time, in such a desperate time, the figure carrying the flag, the pride and disdain in his eyes, had awoken her hope. Su Yi finally understood Niechio's feelings. It was not that they did not want to design a safer plan, but because the Master was too strong, and in the plan the Master would always become the most important part. Purple Cuckoo City. Tang Tian's eyes lit up when he heard it. He could hear that Su Ye's plan had a high possibility of success. Compared to fighting them one by one, Su Ye's plan was much more powerful. His drawing was truly better than Tang Tian's. At least one could tell that it was a normal bear. When everyone knew that the ugly graffiti-like flag was what the Master had used to save Han Bingning, the entire Null Division agreed. Hearing how the Master had taken the risk alone, hearing how arrogant and tyrannical the Master was, the entire Null Division was fired up. If possible, it is best for all of you to participate in the training. Amauri suddenly spoke to everyone. His expression was serious. We will definitely leave the Xin domain. If all of you are able to assimilate into the army earlier, it will be beneficial for all of you in the future. Seeing that, the others could only stand up. After that, he felt that his imposing manner was too weak and added, "Don't you need to ask for the opinions of others? We will do as you say." Tang Tian said without hesitation. "This is the first step." Su Yi said happily. After 2 days of bitter thinking, his plan was continuously perfected. At this time, everyone will definitely ignore the Master. But no matter, we will start to raise our reputation. The blood bear black flag looked exactly like Tang Tian's drawing, but after a new embroidery, the flagpole was changed to an even stronger profound iron pole, and it looked more imposing. Su Yi was hesitant. He looked at Tang Tian and said, "This plan has a flaw." Tang Tian looked at the newly embroidered blood bear black flag and his face twitched. "Don't you guys know how to redraw it?" Amauri raised both of his arms without hesitation. "I'll listen to you. We can do that." Tang Tian's eyes opened wide. His face was filled with shock. Su Ye's words had opened a new window for him. Just at that moment, a carriage flew over from behind. The coachman brought over the blood bear black flag and the ghost face mask. "I will participate." Gu Shui was the first to stand up. She could feel that the group of people supported Tang Tian from the bottom of their hearts. Niechio laughed. His confidence was at an unprecedented high. Amauri did not know that he would be proud of his words for many years to come. Such a plan would always be an irresistible temptation. If it was in the past, he would definitely not have come up with such a plan. Because the entire plan was completely betting on the master alone. Betting on the master being able to endure the pressure. Betting on the master being able to become stronger through the series of challenges. Tang Tian laughed, his fighting spirit soaring. Don't worry. If the Ice Mountain girl is truly angry, she can do anything. Su Ye's words surprised Tang Tian. He asked curiously, they will return it? Roland, Su and the rest who witnessed the change all sucked in cold breaths. What kind of subordinates are they? I'm afraid they won't. Su Yi laughed. Although ancestrally gave grace to the Sin domain in the past, but it has been a long time, and I reckon that not many people will acknowledge that debt. But it doesn't matter, with that we will have a good reason to attack. Ancestor Li's inheritor went out to sea and encountered a storm, but the subordinates will be divided by everyone, and we will have to ask for compensation from the various families. That is natural. Han Bingning turned his head. Nye Qiu seemed to know that Han Bingning was looking at him and chuckled. I don't have any objections. Master, you should spend the next few days in closed-door training. Su Yi said softly. When we reach East Immortal City, I'm afraid it will be a series of bitter battles. Chapter 746. Su Yi laughed. That's right, and I'm afraid that they have already found out about us. East Immortal City has 3 families, the Su family, the Yu family and the Song family. The strongest is the Su family. Su Xiangdong is an introverted and low-profile man, and rarely steps out of East Immortal City, and is ranked 48th on the list of powerhouses. I'm afraid that he is intentionally underestimating us. An infamous person who could stop babies from crying at night. In the smoke screen, a wisp of cold strength chi attacked again. Tang Tian was not afraid, his arm that was hanging down slashed upwards, executing the heavens, silently swept past, colliding with the cold energy, causing the tyrannical energy contained in executing the heavens to explode out. Su Xiangdong's hand that was holding the bitter fruit to his mouth stopped, revealing a look of surprise. Where's Qin Zhen? He felt that Su Ye's method was good, but it was slightly roundabout and was not as straightforward as directly killing his way in. Such a pity. If it was an Ursa Major constellation, they would directly send an army over, and see who would dare to not hand it over. Su Xiangdong waved his hand and he bowed and retreated. On the rattan chair, Su Xiangdong closed his eyes and pretended to sleep, his mouth revealing a cold smile. He was different from Qin Zhen, who was in the limelight. Su Xiangdong was an expert in concealing his strength and biding his time. East Immortal City was a small city and the Su family was not a big family. Su Xiangdong was barely able to squeeze into the list of powerhouses, and was ranked 48th behind Qin Zhen. If it was said that a B-grade infamous person was just a first-rate expert, then an A-grade infamous person could squeeze into the list of powerhouses. How many families have received this letter? But the resistance from his palm caused his body to become sluggish. At the moment when he rushed out from the smoke, he realized that his hand blade had actually entered a large net. Countless of black mist churned like black worms, frantically gnawing at the transparent palm print. Su Ye's face turned white. Life and death. They mutually countered each other, but the palm print that contained an extremely pure life force was actually unable to move the net of death. The aura of death was too dense, like a raging wave. The two parties were not on the same level. Death thread? Tang Tian heard Su Ye's exclamation, but he did not have the time to think. The net in front of him was extremely strange. The power of executing the heavens was extremely dense, but upon hitting the black net, it actually dissipated into nothingness. Moreover, the wisps of black fog were like wriggling worms, desperately trying to burrow into his skin. The law of life and death was one of the 3 great fundamental laws, but the number of people who cultivated it was the least. Life and death were impermanent, and the changes in the laws of life and death were the most bizarre and unpredictable. There were even fewer people who cultivated the death laws alone, because the dense death energy would unwittingly corrode a person's vitality. Even cultivators could not escape it. That was why most cultivators would train in both life and death, using their life force to counteract the corrosion of death, and Su Ye's seal of life and death was the same. Tang Tian's aura suddenly changed. Even smart people can be fooled. Lao He laughed. The Qin clan has fallen. He said with certainty, the 4 clans have joined forces and destroyed the Qin clan. We do not know the details, but many people saw Ghostface Mask and the Shui family entering the city, and Su Yi and the rest were extremely respectful. He said. In a moment of desperation he could not care about anything else. His left hand formed the grasping flower seal. In the inn. Hard to say. He thought for a moment. Ancestrally gave grace to the various families in the past, and every once in a while, there would be some swindlers that would come out and use it to gain benefits. I have never heard of Ghostface Mask's relationship with Ancestrally, and only heard that he is the leader of the Ursa Major Null Division. This should be true, but this old servant has never heard of the Null Division of Ursa Major Constellation, and after asking around no one knows about it. Ancestrally's inheritor is too strange. I think he knows that it will be difficult to get his subordinates back, and is using the tiger's skin as a banner. All of the hairs on Tang Tian's body stood. An intense sense of danger surged in his mind. The heavy demonic execution was useless against the death aura, and his hand was tightly bound and could not move. But upon encountering a person who trained in death laws, he had to be careful because such an enemy usually meant that he was powerful. Furthermore, Xian's ferocious name in the circle that trained in life and death laws was definitely at the peak. This old servant will see how capable he is tonight. He replied respectfully. He immediately understood why he was able to sense the other party before the master. It was because the other party trained in death laws, and the dense death aura made him feel it. The death line was the most famous technique of death laws. It was formed from the densest death aura, and could unknowingly corrode life force. This ghost face mask has some standards. I wonder what kind of bewitching potion he fed them. They are truly crazy. Su Xiangdong said lazily. He is most likely a swindler, Ancestrally's inheritor. Could it be that Su Yi was scared by him? Wasn't it said that he is extremely astute? His body was extremely tyrannical and was the strongest weapon. Suddenly a ripple appeared on the net. The messy dead lines twisted strangely, and a horrifying human face appeared on the net. The human face was ugly and sinister. It opened its mouth and a black mist surged out, as though there were countless of vengeful spirits wailing and howling inside. Su Xiangdong, who was half-dressed, reclined on the rattan chair, chewing on the bitter fruit. The bitter fruit was a fruit from a shrub. It had a thick and chewy skin, but the taste was extremely bitter, and the juice was as black as ink, thus it was called the bitter fruit. Su Xiangdong loved to eat the bitter fruit, and it was not a secret in East Immortal City. All of the prisoners have good qualities, and what's rarer is their loyalty. Su Xiangdong said slowly, although I am not interested in Ghost Face Mask, but the bitter fruit is a good thing. Qingjin spent so much effort, there must be a lot of prisoners in Purple Cuckoo City, right? Tang Tian moved with his blade, wanting to slice the enemy in half. They should have received the letter. Tang Tian was eager to give it a try. It is very impressive. Purple Cuckoo City is by the sea, and we have picked up over 400 prisoners, adding the 200 sent by the Liu family, that is over 600. He knew what the patriarch was planning, but he had to admit that it was an enticement that no one could resist. Tonight we will go and probe Ghost Face Mask. Su Xiangdong said, who knows, we can take the chance to swallow Purple Cuckoo City. Just at that moment the human face was like an illusion in the water. It suddenly flashed and opened its mouth to bite towards Tang Tian's hand blade. A thread of cold qi clashed with Tang Tian's hand blade. Bang! It suddenly exploded, and the wall in front of Tang Tian instantly exploded, countless of rocks flying everywhere. If it was any other ordinary person, their first reaction would be to retreat. The rocks that exploded were like arrows, and with the dust and smoke in front of them blocking their vision, they would not be able to see the enemy clearly, and retreating would be the best choice. Tang Tian was startled, but he immediately reacted and sensed a thread of qi. His figure suddenly flashed and appeared in the corner like a ghost, his hand blade piercing into the wall, and the sturdy wall was pierced through like tofu. Su Xiangdong chewed on the bitter fruit, the black juice staining his teeth black, but he did not care and asked, "What's the news from Purple Cuckoo City?" But Su Xiangdong's expression did not seem to care about Qingjin. Qingjin is going to cry now. How can we endure it? Su Xiangdong's tone was filled with schadenfreude. No matter what, we should at least wipe out the 4 families. Su Yi was strong, but compared to Qingjin he was still lacking. That's not right, I have seen Su Yi before, he is not a fool, why would he do such a stupid thing? Aren't they afraid that Qingjin will deal with them later? He was in Galloping Horse City. He spoke respectfully. It is said that he had a secret deal with the Liu family. The Liu family gave 200 Null Division prisoners to Qingjin, and the Qin family sold the Shui family to the Lu family. This matter had caused a huge ruckus in Purple Cuckoo City. The Shui family had sought help from various families, but no one dared to help them. Qin Zhen went to Galloping Horse City to visit Lu Xianxia. But he had always been in contact with other families wanting to purchase more Null Division prisoners, and had already reached an agreement with a few families. The Lu family didn't object either. Su Ye's face completely changed, the dense death aura surged out. Until now, when the death puppet appeared, the other party's identity was obvious. Death puppeteer He Exin. An A-class outlaw from 10 years ago. I'm afraid we don't need to kill our way over. Su Ye's gaze suddenly turned cold. If he had fought steadily, the current Qin family would definitely be in a different situation. Old He stood at the side respectfully. There are 3 families. Our family, the Yu family and the Song family. Our family has 66 prisoners. The Yu family has 32, and the Song family has 23. East Immortal City was close to the mountains and not the sea, and thus the number of prisoners they had was far less than Purple Cuckoo City. Su Yi did not hesitate at all, the life force in his body surged, his palm became transparent like a crystal, and he struck out at the death wire net. A transparent palm print impressively appeared on the net. Then when do we kill our way over? Tang Tian asked anxiously. It was as though the black smoke had converged to form lines, interweaving in front of him like a spider web. A few extremely fine black lines coiled around his palm like vines, all the way to his wrist. They were all tightly bound. Tang Tian tried his best to retract them, but realized that he could not move. The black lines were extremely sturdy, and they seemed to have a unique method to dissolve Tang Tian's power. That's true, the more shrewd a person is, the easier it is to fall for it. That means, Purple Cuckoo City has fallen into Ghost Face Mask's hands? Su Xiangdong thought. Su Yi finally saw it clearly and his face changed. Death wire. Death puppet. Savage He Exin. Old He, do you think his identity as Ancestor Li's inheritor is true or false? Su Xiangdong suddenly asked. Tang Tian did not retreat, but instead lowered his head like a raging bull. He welcomed the explosion and smashed into the smoke screen. Yes. Old He replied respectfully, but there are rumors that the Purple Cuckoo City had a strange phenomenon. A rainbow pierced through the sky and did not dissipate for a long time. Everyone said that there was a powerful martial artist who gained enlightenment. Qin Zhen left the Galloping Horse City, but has not revealed himself. Qin Zhen is a suspicious person, and without knowing the situation he will definitely not make a move and will only watch from the shadows. The ambusher did not expect Tang Tian's hand blade to contain such terrifying power and suffered a loss. All of the Null Division prisoners were of high quality, and as long as they could groom them into servants, the Su family's strength would definitely soar. Qin Zhen's plan was great, but it was a pity that he was too rash and overestimated his control over the Purple Cuckoo City, and thus ended up with such a bitter outcome. Chapter 747. All of the puppets looked like machines, but their speed was as fast as lightning, and their movements were not restricted by the human body as all of their joints could move at will. The formless spirit seal had raised his intuition, and he had immediately sensed the abnormality. Su Yi snorted. I never thought that the Great East Immortal Pavilion would not be safe. But that's right, the death puppeteer He Exin, you guys will not be able to stop him. The leader immediately replied, Thank you. Su Yi carefully searched for a moment and finally relaxed. He did not sense He Exin's chi. Tang Tian snorted. He was not afraid and welcomed the enemy with executing the heavens. A groan came out from afar. Su Yi could not help but shiver. Bang bang bang. Tang Tian did not move, his expression did not relax at all. Tang Tian's left hand secretly formed a formless spirit seal, but he did not allow his chi to leak out, and everything around him was extremely clear. His intuition was extremely sharp. Other than Ye Qiu, the talented fellow, Tang Tian had never found anyone who surpassed him in this aspect. The two fists clashed. The barrage of attacks caused Tang Tian to retreat step by step. He did not even have the chance to catch his breath. No need. Su Yi was getting impatient. How did you find out? The seal was like a flower. The death heart seed was born from the densest death aura, causing it to not have any death aura. Many people who were planted with the death heart seed would not be able to sense it. The most terrifying thing about the Death Heart seed was that upon being planted, as long as the target's state of mind was slightly relaxed, it would quietly seep into their state of mind and take root there. He trained in life and death laws and was extremely sensitive to the undulations of death aura. If Xian was still around, he would definitely be able to sense it, just like how he had sensed Xian's presence. Tang Tian roared. He did not retreat but advanced and pounced towards one of the puppets. A powerful force suddenly exploded out from Tang Tian's fist seal, and the death puppet was sent flying like a powerless puppet, crashing into the wall. The net formed by the death threads was like ink in water, disappearing into the darkness. But the death threads were extremely difficult to deal with. Upon being repelled, they became like snakes that were startled, and pounced towards Tang Tian even more frantically. Weeping sword seal. Su Yi said with lingering fear. He's gone. Su Yi trained in life and death laws and naturally knew of the changes between life and death. It was extremely profound and unfathomable. Life comes from death and death from life. The denser the death aura, the greater the need for flesh and blood to nourish it. Xian's law surface actually projected such a dense death aura. Who knew how much flesh and blood it had devoured? Right at this moment, an unexpected event occurred. His knife hand struck the leader's body as if he had defeated him. This person's body was sent flying like a sandbag, crashing heavily into the wall, leaving behind countless cracks as he was embedded in the wall. The power of Tang Tian's devil saber creation was so strong that it directly shattered the bones in this person's body, and the entire chest cavity completely collapsed. But at this time the chest cavity returned to normal, and the shattered bones were as good as new, but the skin showed a terrible gray color. It was like a fist and a seal, but it was incomparably in line with Tang Tian's current state of mind. It was an indescribable feeling of contentment. Tang Tian felt a warm current flowing on the surface of his body. It was incomparably hot. His body was like a pot of boiling oil, surging incessantly. Su Yi and the guards of the inn were startled, but immediately, all of them revealed looks of anger. A group of guards hurriedly barged in. Countless of black death aura surged out from his body. The black death aura quickly transformed into lines of death threads, and in the blink of the eye, the black death threads transformed into a large net that wrapped around the man's body tightly. I knew that I would not be able to escape Patriarch Su's discerning eyes. The entire wall collapsed with a loud rumble. The leader bowed and asked, "Can I take a look?" Tang Tian did not say anything. His gaze slowly swept across every corner of the courtyard, his movements extremely slow. Angry fist seal. Tang Tian immediately released his right palm. He did not have any techniques, nor did he require any techniques. Every fist of his was extremely heavy. Tang Tian's palm went numb. The strength of the opponent's fists was surprisingly strong. In that short period of time, a few figures pounced forward like lightning. The dense death aura under the terrifying power was shattered. And the puppet's body was completely shattered. The death aura that was shattered consumed a lot of energy and could no longer maintain the puppet. Grasping flower seal out of the demon 6 seals,